There are only two reasons why anyone could remain unmarried. One, the spiritual reasons, and secondly, ignorance of what to know. Now, for the purpose of this teaching, the scope of what unmarried is includes mature single lady, 2. Mature single guy, 3. Separated couple, 4. Divorced couple, and 5. Widow, 6. Widower, and 7. Single parent. Having said this, I will be illustrating with a chart to further explain or establish my points. Note that these two reasons are each further divided into two. As such, spiritual reasons may either be positive or negative. Consequently, when the enemies want to punish you as their victim, they plague you with disfavor with the right spouse, only to expose you to such kind of suffering that only marital status can take away from you. And then when it is positive, the positive spiritual reasons, it's a very big source of power and highly effectual. Thus, beside the use of blood, either animal or human blood, another source of spiritual power comes from abstinence from sexual activities. This truth has been proven from and in all ramifications of life. And you talk of Buddhism, you talk of our Christianity, you talk of Hinduism, you talk of our Islam, you talk about even scientifically in traditional religion, and even in witchcraft. When we take scientific proof, then we consider the degree of your mental alertness is much more superior at abstinence than when you are sexually active, as the same faculty of the brain responsible for processing intelligent quotient is also responsible for sexual activities. In other words, you have to take priorities. I have noticed that over 90% of the first-class students all over the world are not sexually active at the time of achieving that feat. Also, in learning any kind of trade, the comprehension status of the sexually active are far below those who are not or those who are chaste. Furthermore, on scientific level, it has been proven that it takes nothing less than 7 days of eating balanced diet to fully regain what a man loses during sexual acts. As such, the substance released is the most proteinous substance in a man that has the capability or capacity to produce a new life. As such, you cannot lose it and not know it. Have you ever had an encounter with a spirit before? Either an angel or demons. The very first thing you experience is strength-sapping fear. So if the spirit must walk in or within you, it means the strength, your inner strength must be greater for any spirit to work in you for a greater assignment. So your inner strength must be intact. On a final note, scientifically, you remember the days of HIV scourge. The World Health Organization prescriptions for safety was ABC. Starting with the last letter, C stands for use condom, B stands for be faithful, and A stands for abstinence. Abstinence alone of the three provisos guarantee 100% assurance of freedom, followed by being faithful. And I'm sure you know that abstinence is a core character of God, followed by being faithful. Science did brilliant well to let you know that condom, that its own product, does not give you 100% assurance. Focusing the beam now on religion and Christianity, for instance. Anytime God wants to use a man, both in the Old and New Testament, He calls first for consecration, or what you call abstinence. And there are categories of great as well as individuals in this category. For instance, you look at the Israelite armies. When God wants to send them for war, He calls for abstinence first. Also, you saw someone like Samson, you saw Paul. In our generation, you see the likes of Katri Kuhlman and a host of others. Almost every other religion follows suit. Come to the African traditional religion and consider the following scenarios. First, you look at the Osun Calabash bearer. In the worship of Osun River Goddess, the first and the most important qualification or qualities for the calabash bearer is virginity. Outside virginity, you don't have any other qualification. In the same vein, when a babalawo make a chant for you or give you a kind of a sham or a very strong juju or maybe a voodoo, a chant, a mantra, and even in the witchcraft, the first warning you may likely receive is that you abstain from sexual activity. The essence of all the above I have mentioned and illustrated is simply to assure you that when the hand of God is on you or any other deity, you may have a prolonged marital delay. However, the positive aspect of it is that all these are in essence of bringing power to you. So the interfering of power, of bringing power to you, may cause that strong delay. Then we go to the second reason, which is ignorance. Ignorance is the second reason. The second reason is ignorance. And I tell you, this is major and is equally divided into two. The first leg is that when you say no to the right person, you have only opened doors for the wrong people to occupy your ear space. And you can be too sure that the only thing wrong people will do is to molest your life with your permission and leaving you unenviable. And the second leg is when you say yes to the wrong person, you have simply shot yourself against marital defense, making the right people desert you, exposing you to the strongest emotional torture. The bitter truth is that the two arms of spiritual reasons largely operate on the ground of ignorance to wreak havoc on their victims. In fact, the two spiritual reasons can be crushed into only one reason, and that is ignorance. There are some group of people who will say, I will never get married until I acquire certain material status. The truth is that over 90% of people in this category, by natural default, will only become wealthy at marriage and never before. But for ignorance, they waste so much time and opportunities chasing shadows, and except they marry, there will never be anything to show. The question is, what is the solution? All has been said, but what can be done to proffer solution? I tell you, if ignorance can hold you in bondage for ransom, then adequate knowledge can set you free. Please look out for Pioneer's Marriage Market. And now I come to the solution. The solution I have brought with me on this topic is of universal application. In other words, it is applicable for every resounding result in all challenges of life. This is universal. I call it almighty formula for all and every dicey and difficult issues of life. However, before I release this formula, let me quickly illustrate the simplicity of this formula with a practical experience I had before now. This formula is too simple to be true. I pressed the power button of the TV set, but there was no picture. No picture on the screen. I tried severally, but all was to no avail. And because of the type of TV and the area, we could not get a technician to repair it, and so for 6 weeks we couldn't watch the TV. Eventually I got a technician to see if he could fix the TV set. He brought out his tools bag, ran some quick checks on the TV, and said he could fix it. I asked him for how much, and he named his price. So I asked him to go ahead, but with a clause that I will not allow him to go away with the TV set, and to which clause he quickly agreed. But before I could ask how much to deposit for the job, he had unplugged the TV from the electric power socket, opened a ledge from the TV plug, brought out a white-like substance that was called fuse or something, brought out a flexible wire from his tool bag, rolled it round the fuse, returned it into the TV plug, and fixed the TV plug head back into the electric socket, powered the TV, and there you are. There come out a very bright picture. The problem was as simple as just rolling a flexible wire around the small fuse. But because we lacked the knowledge, we couldn't watch TV for 6 weeks. But he who had the true knowledge took less than 5 minutes to fix the whole problem, and he saved us from what has suffered us for 1.5 months. Everyone around started shouting, "No, we won't take such amount of money because of this, because of that. Now, you have fixed it." I calmed down every one of them, and I said to them, we had an agreement. He fixed it, and we pay. He who has the knowledge gets the reward. And I pointed to someone beside me. I said, even you that are ND elect, you couldn't do it. So if the man fixed it, definitely is entitled to his pay. And now here is the solution. The solution I proffer is as simple as ICA. That means I call it ICA formula. I stands for information, C stands for comprehension, A stands for application. Now look critically at the 4-column chart I have shown you from the beginning. You see it numbered from 1 to 4. If you are not married, you belong to one major column in this chart. Note, it's very possible that you see yourself in either 2, 3, or even their own chart. If you do, then I tell you, you are not red. But the truth is that you actually belong to only one side, and until you find out that side, you have not started the healing process. Every bit of information you have ever had with regards to this subject matter are all the bits of information you need to work out your solution. I mean, whatever experience you have had remaining single is all the experience and information you need to trash out the same problem. So get and reapply the information. Now sit down with all the piece of information at your disposal to comprehend and find out those two things. The first two things you will find out is, number one, what did I do wrong that I ought not to have done? Number two, what didn't I do that I ought to have done? Finding out these two issues, as it is peculiar to your own situation, and correcting them no matter how difficult they seem to be. This will be your open check to the court of marital happiness. Take your findings to prayer. Take your findings to prayer for grace to apply them to your situation. And this is what I call comprehension. When you sit down and get all the information, you look out for what you ought to have done, you didn't do, or what you ought to do, what you ought not to do, and you have done. You look at all this and comprehend, then take them to God in prayer, then apply. And finally, just apply, and you will be shocked how easy it is. I assure you, you will never believe the magic word. This is the voice of his oracle, oozing out from Zion, the city of God. This is St. John's Israel, ADEGBOYEGA.